On this week's show, we're going to be looking at the French Grand Final. We're going to dive into the Super League attendances and we're going to discuss who's in and who's out with the Leeds coaching situation. My name's Karl.
My name's Craig and welcome to the weekly news show, the set of six from the Rugby League Outsiders. Let's get into it. Right, Karl, so we are fresh after recording our prediction video. If you've not checked that out yet, go and find it on the channel. So some really interesting games coming up. But into this week's news.
Well, hang on a minute.
What?
Before we get into this week's news,
Yeah.
I've got to discuss the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Where's your kit?
Mate, that kit's outdated.
No,
The kit's outdated. Right, take your bloody daughter's hat off. Right, take your outdated t-shirt and get yourself an overshirt. It's all about the overshirt.
You're a fucking man of fashion out here.
Yeah.
I think you should, if you don't turn up in correct kit, you should have to, like when you're at school and you got to wear something out of PE box.
Isn't that my dress code every week anyway?
Get that pink t-shirt out again that we made you wear once.
Shocking. Right, let's get into it. So we had some great weather and bank holiday weekend as well, but something surprising happened with the attendances this week, Karl.
Well, they were down is the first thing. We've been actually talking about Super League attendances all year, and I know that we get loads of negative comments all the time, but actually Super League attendances have been really good this year. They've been up majority of games. The big events, the crowds have been up, Magic Weekend, things like that. The finals will be up. However, this week we had a big dip in the Super League attendances. However, there's a little bit more to look at here. So I'm going to dive into the Super League attendances and Championship attendances. And there's one thing that sticks out here. Do you know what it is? We should do more research then, shouldn't you? Right. Castleford versus Leeds, 8,000 fans there, right?
Yeah.
The biggest crowd of Super League this week was Catalan versus Wigan's, the only crowd that went over the 10,000 mark. 10,103 fans at Catalan versus Wigan. Huddersfield Giants versus St Helens, just 4,000 there. Terrible attendance. That Lee versus Hull FC, 8,000 there. That's great. Wakefield versus Salford, there was 6,277. And Warrington versus Hull KR, 9,772. So
I got 9,972.
well, it don't matter. Let's see. It was
a couple of hundred, yeah.
It was under 10,000, just under 10,000.
Right.
Looking at the Championship attendances then, Bradford versus Widnes, just 3,300 there. Doncaster versus London, 1,177. Featherstone versus Batley didn't announce it, so I can't imagine that was too great. Oldham versus Halifax, nearly 2,000. I think for Oldham, that's pretty good. A team that's really building something. Sheffield v Hunslet, no crowd given. And the highest crowd in the Championship, Toulouse versus Barrow, 3,500.
Is this the pattern then?
There's the pattern. So
the trip to south of France is where it's at?
The two biggest crowds, both in Super League and in the Championship, both in France. So there's a bit of there's something to say there to the old M62ers who think that rugby league shouldn't be taking place in the south of France.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're taking from this, the fact that it is a bank holiday, some of the kids are breaking up from school, people are just going on holiday, therefore crowds are down.
Yeah,
it's certainly nothing to do with the sports in a shit state and no one's interested in going to watch it.
No. I just think I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, and I think if we look back over other bank holidays, I think you'll probably see that it has an effect on a lot of attendances. But really interesting that both French teams have drawn in the biggest crowds, and I think it's great. And
we definitely need to shine a light on that because with these rumours that some people don't even want the French clubs in there. All these people that are turning up and all these people that have travelled clearly wanted to. I mean, I saw posts on social media of whole families from Wigan, travelling out to Catalan, and So I think people want it
because
don't
it's
they?
a great occasion, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got a choice of going to. Going down the road for a local game or making a bit of a family occasion of it. And I think people love going to the South of France. Imagine 12 months' time, right? And some of these clubs get their own way. And we don't have Catalan and Toulouse in the British system. There's like 14,000 crowd gone there.
Yeah.
Tell me where they're going to be made up of the teams in the Championship that are on the M62. Mm. Where are you finding that amount of fans?
No, you're not.
You're not, are you?
No.
You're just not. So, yeah, I thought it was worth shining a light on. League Express, I think those figures were initially published in.
Okay, we're going to check in with Liam Duffy, who's the host of the new podcast, The Inside Shoulder. He goes really deep into tackle technique, wrestle, that kind of stuff. He can talk more about that in a minute. But he's also landed a new coaching job out in south of France, and he's also going to give us a little bit of a rundown on the grand final that's happened over there recently. Welcome back, Liam.
Thank you for having me again.
No worries. So I suppose the first place to start, you was defence coach at, I've got the Avignon, wasn't it? And you've just been promoted to the new head coach. First of all, congratulations. Are you looking forward to it?
Very much. With some trepidation, I'm looking forward to it, yeah. No, it's look, I mean, you probably saw in the table, this probably doesn't sing my praises as defence coach, but we came second bottom last season of Elite One. But, I mean, it's a typical thing to say, but it really doesn't tell the whole story. We had a whole project going into the season, had a whole pre-season under Mitch Garber, who's the former Melbourne Storm, Leeds Rhinos and Toulouse front rower. So we did a great pre-season with him. I was kind of handling a little bit of defence, wrestle, tackle, and physical prep, so a bit of the strength and conditioning side. And then literally 2 games into the season, we lost him as head coach for all sorts of reasons I won't get into, but it's absolutely not his fault whatsoever. So it's completely out of his control. But it just, as you can imagine, just derailed the season completely. It was very difficult morale-wise. The thing that interested me in the job was Avignon has some superb ingredients. Yeah, we were 2 games into the season and obviously got completely derailed. But there's still a lot of really good ingredients there. So the team was competitive with pretty much everybody in the comp. Ran teams like Carcassonne, who are they were the grand finalists yesterday. Ran them very close, ran Albi very close, beat Santa Steve, the Catalan Dragons reserve away, won a bunch of games, but just the season was too derailed to be able to claw it back really. The whole Provence region is just massive on young talent. The under-19s for Avignon and Carpentras, the joint enterprise, just won the under-19s final in France. Pretty much a large proportion of the Super League talent that's French comes from the region. There's Provence players, guys who are formed in Avignon all over Elite One. So there's a massive goldmine of talent in the region that is proven itself to be Super League level. In fact, there's even one who's in an NRL system, Enzo Griffier, who I've coached him a few years ago, but I'm not claiming responsibility for his talent. That was all natural. But he's over in the Roosters system. So there's just amazing youth talent, big aggressive forward pack that I think just a little polish, a little kind of professionalism, a little bit of a reorientation of the culture. And I just, I thought, it is a challenge, but it's the kind of challenge that I kind of salivate over. I am really looking forward to it, but like I said, with some trepidation, because I'm not under any illusions about the scale of the task.
I mean, you sounded really respectful of Mitch Garber, and probably rightly so. I just wonder, with your previous role as defence coach or assistant defence coach, or whatever the role was, are you going to change the identity of the team? And what I mean by that is, are you going to become a defence first team, or are you going to have an equal parts attack? Where's your focus going to be coming into the next season?
Yeah, look, I think when some of the players found out I was going to be taking over the head coach, I think some of them were scared that we were going to be doing defence every single session, to be honest. But no, that's not the case. Obviously, I think it's a typical answer, but obviously defence does come first. It's half the game, if not more important. All the best teams around the world, both Union League, American football, even the kind of defensively dominant teams, the most aggressive teams are the ones that are most successful in that. So you need to train defense, and I think that's one thing I found when I came into the environment was that defense was an undertrained element of the game. And I think part of that comes from like the kind of stuff that I talk about on the Inside Shoulder podcast. Sorry to do a shameless plug, but this idea that, you know, like there's no kind of in between ground practicing defense. Like you can either do touch or like full contact, but there's so many different ways to train defense, like, and thread it into everything that you do. So that's what we'll continue doing. That we were extremely aggressive in collision last year. To the point where, you know, a lot of opposition coaches and stuff said, you know, you're probably the toughest, physically the toughest team that we played. So I want to maintain that identity. I want to maintain the collision, but I want to add some kind of professionalism to it. So I think we got beat on the ground by quite a few teams. So we were winning collisions, but just the technical element of the wrestle was behind. And kind of the overall defensive system, like understanding roles and being able to read the play in front of us and respond appropriately in defence. Like we need to bring those levels up to match where we were with the collision. So that's a priority. Obviously, we'll be working on attack. We've brought in Florian Chassard as assistant coach, who's been around French Rugby League for years, and he will be he's going to have a lot of responsibility on the attack, especially in the danger zone in the last 20, 30 metres. I'll give some principles according to what I want to play, but then honestly, like I've got quite a lot of trust in the players and the assistant coach to handle that kind of thing. So yeah, there's some polish and stuff to add, but kind of as I mentioned before, for me, the number one job before we even talk about like style of play, game plan it's a cultural project. Like I need to reorientate the culture towards a more kind of performance-based environment. I need to make the players value kind of attention to detail and not think that attention to detail is a chore. You know, I need to just reorientate their thinking a little bit. And, you know, I'm just being totally honest with you. It's not a criticism of where the players are. They're a great bunch of lads, but I think that's my role is I need to make them value the attention to detail, value the professionalism, value being serious with their preparation. Because, you know, it's Elite One. It's not a joke. It's not a local club comp. It's like the top level of rugby league in France. And, you know, you have to prepare. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results. So, for me, it's a preparation and an a cultural project before it's a game plan project.
Awesome. Liam, I tried to get you on last week and you'd just been appointed as head coach at that point, and already you was out. I think you said to me you was looking to sign players already, or you're certainly out in the market. So just take me through what's the first couple of weeks been like in the new position, and sort of map out from here to the start of the season, you know, what you're going to be looking to do.
Yeah, I think I said to you it's like Football Manager in real life, but which I grew up playing. But yeah, no, it's been cool. I'm quite happy to say here publicly, my priority is recruiting talented local players, talented youth from the region. I'm not, you know, if an overseas player who, you know, demonstrates that they can be valuable, or we need, you know, a certain position covering that we haven't been able to cover, then certainly we'll look at that. But by far and away, like the urgent task for me has been to keep hold of the young players that we've already got, because there's some exceptional talent in there. And obviously when there's exceptional talent, other clubs with bigger budgets come looking. So I think from my point of view, it's been, let's lock them down as much as we can. I think we're going to lose one or two, but that's life. Lock down as many as we can, make them stay, make them be proud to be associated with this club. You know, even if the last couple of years it's not been up at the right end of the table, and then, you know, see what other, you know, in Elite 2, and even in the national division in the region, in the other youth setups, like what kind of talent is out there that we might be able to bring in and develop. So that's what I've been doing. I've been making lots of phone calls. I've been getting lots of messages from players in the region saying, I want to come next season as well. Obviously, we can't take everybody, but I think that's what I'm looking at the moment before looking at, you know, if there's players in the UK or Australia or New Zealand or anything like that. It's really, you know, I want to harvest the local talent because there's a lot of it.
And then just looking at the current state of play out there in the south of France. So grand final this weekend, and I think we love sport because of its unpredictability sometimes, and I don't think people really expected Albi to win, did they? Can you just give us your take on the grand final this week?
Yeah, I mean, it was an arm wrestle for a long period of the game. I think, yeah, like you said, I think most people would have said that Carcassonne were the favourites. Certainly from what I saw, and this is no disrespect to Albi whatsoever, it's obviously a very good team. Certainly from what I saw in the season, Carcassonne looked like a bit more of a complete team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I mean, Albi, like, they've got quality. They've got Gudemons, who's obviously very recently played in Super League. They've got Tony Gigo, who's just, his kicking game is on another level compared to the competition. Obviously, incredible match-breaking experience. So they've got players like that in the team. They've got some big bodies in the middle. So they're always going to be in it. It was always going to be an arm wrestle. I think it was quite conservative as a game for the first half, the first 50, 60 minutes, and then it kind of broke open with a bit of fatigue. It was very, very hot yesterday. It was like 27, 28 degrees Celsius while they were playing. So yeah, it was pretty grim conditions. Beautiful to be in the stands, but not out there playing. But yeah, I think, being honest, I think Carcassonne maybe made some poor game management choices towards the end of the game. They started giving some penalties away, which is obviously not a game management question, but just a little bit of discipline. They got a yellow card late in the game, I think while they were ahead, or the scores were even. I can't really remember. And then just some poor choices, I think, in defence and what they did with the ball, like just poor game management. And I think that just let Albi back into the game, and they took their opportunities. So fair play to them. So
Liam, cheers for the grand final review. So last thing then, you've just started a new podcast, The Inside Shoulder. First guest, Rohan Smith. Incredible. Just tell me where can people find that if they're looking to find your podcast?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you for the shout out. That's awesome. As I said, I read a couple of blogs that said how to promote your podcast, and it said get on other people's podcasts. I've already got an audience. I know you guys have worked really hard to build up a big audience, so it's much appreciated. Just actually, I should have said before on the final, just an incredible atmosphere. Before I get on to plugging my own stuff,
yeah.
Not the biggest crowds in French Rugby League, as you know, like it's because the history is often very small towns where rugby league has survived, but for the number of people that were there, like super tribal atmosphere. You got a bunch of kids from each town turning out, at the same time as like messing with each other in the stands, just like cheering on every hit up, every big tackle.
Yeah.
Just such a cool atmosphere. So like, if anybody is this time next year wanted to check out the like Elite One final, it's a great day out in Narbonne as well, which is a cool city to visit. And just a word, like I said, for the under-19s, the Avignon Carpentras, the Union 13 Vauclusian, they're called. They took out the under-19s trophy, and it was a bunch of our young players who've been playing for us in Elite One this season. But to look at them, you wouldn't know that they're like 18, 19 because they're stacked. So they take their gym work very seriously, which brings us on to Rohan Smith, who was one of the guests on the Inside Shoulder, who I think we were chatting before this. He said was super interested in how much stock he puts in the gym work for players, which you don't often hear from coaches. Like coaches like to protect their time on the field and stuff like that. But he was pretty adamant that rugby league players need time in the gym. And from what I've seen, especially over here, like I'm inclined to agree. I know that not everyone might agree, but I've seen some teams that are just, they do a lot of things right, but they are just physically behind the competition, and they're just not in the game as a result of that. So I can totally understand where he's coming from, but I know that was an interesting part of the conversation for you, so I'm interested to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into this at the Williams Weekly at the back end of the show. So if you're keen to sort of hear what we say on that, then fast forward to that. Right, Karl, on to your favourite part of the show, the viewers' mailbag. I've picked out a couple of. I've actually picked out 3 comments. Yeah, I've picked out 3 comments this week which I really wanted to.
Who's in the viewers' ball bag this week?
Right, viewers' ball bag, sponsored by Urban Flux Studios, where we record this podcast every week. First one, I just want to shine a bit of a light on our pub quiz last week, Karl, which went down an absolute storm.
The shit pub quiz.
People loved it.
I didn't like it.
No, you got made to look like an idiot. Anyway, so UK 100 Adam, right? He's put brilliant quiz, comedy gold, right? So someone there absolutely loving it. What you got to say about that?
Why is it comedy gold? Is it because your drawings were so bad?
No, my drawings were brilliant. It was your assessment of the drawings.
1995.
Right, another one. You'll love this. Jake Clough 8090 on YouTube said that catchphrase Matty Ashton one might be the most painful thing I've ever watched. Right, because the answer was so obvious. It's so obvious, and you were like, it was Matty Ashton. No idea, mate.
Hang on, you've pulled out 3 comments from the viewers' mailbag this week.
No, my next comment is not about the viewers.
I'm going to say
about the quiz.
We've had about 1,000 comments in last week, and the only ones you picked out was about your shit quiz.
Right, first of all, it's not a shit quiz. Second of all, I'm entitled. It's my part of the show. You pick the other stories. I get to pick these. Right, next one. Bleach_bit. Great name, you know.
Bleach. I met Bleach.
Well, Bleach, yeah. Right. Australia. So this is on the back of we was talking about the...
Max King playing for New South Wales.
You got it.
Yeah.
I also worked out that I'd actually played rugby with his dad, which one makes me feel really, really old, and two, you know...
Why didn't you mention it while we were speaking about it?
I made it a bit more interesting anyway, I didn't. So, basically, he said that Australia have always tried to keep all the talent by blackmailing players with origin, and I think... Blackmail seems to be the right word, doesn't it?
True, yeah. I've said this to you before, that origin is hung over players. You get paid such a decent amount of money for playing State of Origin, and... I love State of Origin, right? I don't want to sound like I'm being really negative on State of Origin. Right? I love watching it. It's an absolute spectacle. Great games. Best rugby you can watch. But it's taken so much away from the international game. And it's because Australia have been so bloody strong, and they have handpicked the best Fijians, Samoans, Tongans, even the odd Kiwis represented Australia. And it's
the eligibility rules.
Yeah, they're absolutely crackers. There's actually players playing for State of Origin, I believe. I hope I've got this right. They might have been born in New South Wales. If they've played the first game in Queensland, they're representing Queensland.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. The rules are absolutely nuts, and it's done a load to damage the international game of State of Origin. Despite the fact that I absolutely love it.
Well, of course, Origin...
I'm going to put this to you, right?
Go on.
Imagine, right, born in Halifax.
Yeah.
Imagine your first game, you played it in Blackburn.
Why? I don't think there's a team in Blackburn.
Well, let's just imagine.
Right, okay.
Blackburn's Lancashire, yeah? Just over the border. So...
Mate, I'm going to give you a...
Hang on, I ain't finished yet.
No, I know what you're going to say.
So... the UK version of State of Origin comes around, which is Yorkshire versus Lancashire.
War of the Roses.
You're representing Lancashire. How do you feel about that?
I'm a chuff. I'm a chuff. And let me back that up with a very personal story. When my mum was pregnant, she was living in Todmorden, right? Now, Todmorden is on that border between Yorkshire, Lancashire. Yeah. And you know, it's a very grey line as to what county you're in. Right, my dad bundled her into the car and drove to Halifax Hospital for us to give birth, to make sure that I was born in Yorkshire. Right, so honestly, it's a true story. It's a true story, that. All you wanky lankies out there, right? So yeah, there's no way I'll be playing for Lancashire. No way. I won't do it. Don't care how big your purse is.
I can't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about State of Origin, weren't we?
Yeah. No more to say.
Do I think players have been blackmailed? Well, it wasn't me that said it, was it? It was in the comments. But
I don't think players have been blackmailed. I think they've been held to ransom, I think is the correct term. You know what I mean? Is it the same thing? Blackmailed, held to ransom? Because, you know, it's just... I don't know.
All players want to play State of Origin, don't they? Because it's so big. It's such a spectacle to play in. So yeah, you can understand why all players want to play in State of Origin. I like the fact now that a lot of Fijians and Tongans are choosing to represent their heritage sides now. And actually, if you actually look at the State of Origin sides now, the number of what we say Australians who are actually going to get picked for Australia is down, I would say.
Right.
Which is good news for England.
Yeah. Right. Of course, the Origin, first men's Origin is this week. It's on Wednesday. I think it's 10:30 UK time, so no doubt people will be tuning into that. And then the final women's game is on the Thursday, isn't it? Game 3 for the women's game.
It is, yes.
Which has been a belter.
It's already been wrapped up as that one, hasn't it? New South Wales have already took the title.
Right, we're going to move on. We've got 2 new shirts for you to review for you in the Threads of Glory, including a very special shirt from Down Under.
I think we're about to see the best shirt of 2025. Honestly, But first of all, we'll look at Bradford's, yeah? I just thought we'd bring these up because we did all the shirt reviews at the start of the season.
They're always popular, aren't they?
Yeah, 2 new have dropped and people like to see our opinions on the shirt, so...
Well, because I'm such a fashion aficionado, I'm sat here with my overshirt on.
You didn't even turn up in your actual Rugby League Outsiders kit today, but here we go. This is the new Bradford Bulls shirt, the Bradford Bulls 3rd shirt. What do you make of that then, Craig? I'll let you go first. It's my team, so I'll let you go first. Do you want a bit of context as to the colours?
Well, Jamaica, obviously, but carry on.
What are you on about? Jamaica? Jamaica have never played in pink.
No, the pink is not. But they're Jamaican colours every day of the week.
Not really.
Well, they are. They are.
No, it's the Bradford 2025 City of Culture.
Yeah.
That's the colours on the logo for Bradford City of Culture. Bradford City Football Club have also released a pink shirt in these colours, and I'll be honest with you, well, it's a bit better.
Is it?
Than the rugby one. Yeah.
Do you not think that looks like a Jamaica shirt, though?
No.
Why?
It's pink.
Well, yeah.
I've never seen Cool Runnings rock up in pink lycra.
Anyway, what do we think of it?
Hang on a minute, I've got another question here as well. Seeing as you're the quiz master, name the player. I'll give you 10 points if you get this right.
I don't know. I do know, but...
Ireland International.
I don't know.
Ronan Michael, who's also got his own podcast.
All right.
Yeah, so maybe we'll catch up with him at some point. Anyway, right, back to the shirt. Go on. back to the shirt. I'm going to let one of you go first.
All right, okay.
Give it a rating.
I've got to rate it.
Yeah.
Let me just break it down first of all. So I completely get the context for it. Bradford winning, the City of Culture for 2025. I don't know why the minute we do something that's cultural, we've got to turn it pink. Like, I just don't get that. There's been a lot of pink shirts and pink, and I know there's a place for pink.
Yeah,
but
sat in his pink studio with his pink neon lights.
Yeah, well, I didn't decide that. It's an Elgren shirt, which haven't always been the best shirts,
Ooh.
The V looks a little bit imbalanced if you look at, in my opinion, where the top... Right, you're just going to sit there and make noises. You either want my opinion or you don't. What do you want?
Yeah, go on.
So yeah, the V just looks a little bit unbalanced to me. I don't like the glow around the text in the centre of the shirt. I can't get me. I instantly think of Jamaica. So sponsorship, fair play getting all those sponsors, but they just dropped on. Not really done much with the colour and everything. It genuinely feels like a bit of a throw a shirt together afterthought type thing for me. No doubt, because it's Bradford, you're going to love it.
No, I actually think it's a bit of it's a middle of the road shirt. Is that? I think it's a 3rd shirt. Is what I would say about it. I think, yeah, the colours are the colours because it's the City of Culture and that's the colours on the logo. I do think it has a little bit of Bradford back in the 90s used to have an away shirt that was like purple, green and yellow, and the colours, they're not too far off that actually. The pink looks all right. Does it go with the black? It's okay. The logo placements, I don't think there's anything wrong with the logo placements actually. I think you're just shooting off there. It's all right. I think it's a 6 out of 10 shirt for me, that is. I don't hate it. I don't love it.
Yeah, no, I'd give it a 6. I'd give it a 6 as well. I thought you would have scored it higher, but yeah, a 6. That's all I've got to say. What's your score? What would you rate it out of 10? 1 being dog shit, 10 being absolutely amazing. Where would you rate this one?
You're gonna have us took off air with all this swearing you are.
I've only said shit twice. Right, let's move on to this next one, Karl, which you reckon is
Brisbane Broncos have just released an all black kit. How good is that kit? For us, I think this is... I love this kit. Shall I give you a bit of context? The Black Dog Institute, which is a mental health charity, that's why it's all in black.
I'm struggling for something to say. I'm speechless of this design. Such is the quality of this design.
What?
It's really taken me aback. I think it's really stylish. It's just a quality shirt. I don't know who the manufacturer is.
It's Asics.
Asics, is it?
Yeah, it's Asics, mate.
Just done an amazing. Just the lay of the seams, the panelling on on the traps. You know, the embossed logos, which just has like a bit of an 80s wet look hair gel style to them. It works in a weird way. You know what I mean? The logos look wet.
The matte black of the shirt and the shiny logos, I think, just brilliant. And then the Black Dog Institute logo is the only one that's in white that you can see at the top of the shirt. I get why they've gone for black, for people suffering in silence, and there's a QR code on the inside of the shirt as well. So if you are suffering with your mental health, scan the QR code. It'll take you straight to the charity. Somebody will reach out to you. I just think, I just love it. I absolutely love it. It reminds me of it's like a better all black shirt.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. I want it. I genuinely want it. And rarely do I look at a shirt and go, even my own team, do I rarely look at it and go, do you know what? I want that and I'd wear that. I genuinely want that shirt.
You can't have it.
Why?
Sold out. Absolutely.
No, I bet they have.
It flew out. It sold out straight away. You go on their website, you just cannot get them.
And what about on like Temu or something like that? Not that we're suggesting you might be able to get 4 fraudulent shirts. Anyway,
you might be able to get one off Temu, but the logos probably won't be black.
Yeah. I wonder what commercially what Kia think of this shirt, because obviously it's really understated. However, you've got to argue it's so stylish that does it make up for that? And I mean, it's just any idea, any indication of how many they've actually sold?
No, I didn't have a chance to get that information together, but it's just such a good shirt. I'm looking forward to watching them playing it. June 7th, they're playing it for they've called it their mental health round. So yeah, we're going to be wearing it on June 7th. Really interested to see what it looks like on the pitch as well.
I'm going to give this my first ever 10 for a shirt.
Have you never give a shirt?
I've never give a 10. Never give a 10.
Right.
So I think I've given 9 a couple of times perhaps, but this is the greatest shirt of the century, in my opinion.
Of the century?
Yeah, of course it is.
Well, we don't often completely agree, but I agree with you, mate. It's an 11 from me as well. It's the best shirt. Yeah, it's the best shirt this season. It's the best shirt I've seen in years. If anybody wants to send us one, shout out to Essex.
I'd be really keen to get other people's opinion though. So I think what is your thoughts on this shirt? What would you score it? What comments have you got? I'm sure there'll be people out there that don't like it.
Yeah, there
However,
will. Yeah, there will. And
there'll
be somebody, guaranteed there'll be somebody in comments that go, well, they're not real rugby shirts anymore because they're not made out of cotton. They've
got a massive collar on them. Yeah, brilliant effort there on the shirts. Shall we move on, Karl? Right, next one then. We're going to move over to the Leeds coaching situation. So Brad Arthur's arse must be peppered with splinters right now because he's sitting on the fence that much. You know what I mean? It's painful to watch him in his pre-match conferences and his post-match conferences. He even had the gall to say to the guy from BBC Radio Leeds and basically said, can we just talk about the elephant in the room? And he had the gall to sit there and say, I don't know what you talk about. I don't read the papers or all that. Bullshit, Brad. Get off the fence, make a decision, or at least be honest about what, about the situation. And obviously all this has been made worse because, not worse, but another factor is that Steve McNamara has been rumoured to be taking the reins for the 2026 season as well. Yeah,
and Jamie Jones-Buchanan's distanced Steve McNamara from it. He's basically said, no, we're not talking. So you know what that means, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Steve McNamara is going to be Leeds' coach next year.
Yeah,
because that every time that a chairman comes out and says something like that, it usually means the complete opposite. I thought we'd have a little look at Steve McNamara's coaching career, though.
Right.
What do you think of his time at Catalan?
I think he's done a great job at Catalan. I think it's unfortunate that he's had to come to an end like this, but all things must come to an end at some point. He's had a great run. They have been a real competitive side for a long time. He's led them to silverware. He's built like a foundational team in the sport. I know we've got this thing going on with the NRL, Will Catalan being it and all this kind of stuff, but we're actually advocates of keeping the French teams in the competition.
100%.
And that's because of the history that they've got in the game over the last probably, I mean, how long's it been there? 8 years, is it? It was the longest.
2017.
17. Yeah. So 8 years. 8 years.
We've got us maths right.
Shocking the maths. We'll have a pub quiz about maths next week.
Yeah.
I think he's done a great job. I think, he really dug them out of a bit of a hole when he took over. So
yes, out of Steve McNamara's coaching career, Catalan has been his biggest success, without doubt. 2017, he joined Catalan. They were on their arse at that point when he joined Catalan. They were in the £1 million game. He got them through the £1 million game and kept Catalan in Super League. He sort of saved the bacon a little bit that year. Other noticeable...
Save the jambon, I think it is, isn't it?
2018, won the Challenge Cup, first ever silverware for Catalan Dragons.
Nice.
I remember watching it. It was an amazing occasion. I think everybody became French, didn't they?
They did.
That weekend, it was awesome. 2021 League Leaders Shield. They had a grand final appearance in 2021. They had a grand final appearance in 2023, which is I went to that game against Wigan. Wasn't much in that game, actually. It was a bit of brilliance there that was all separated the side. So yeah, I think success-wise at Catalan, he's done a great job, and I don't think anybody can deny it. I thought we'd go a little bit deeper, though, look at his entire sort of career. After finishing playing, he was the academy coach at Bradford.
Right.
Took I think it was the under-19 side to a grand final in the academy. 2006 to 2010 at Bradford, terrible years. Really terrible years. He was the first Bradford coach in the Super League era to coach a Bradford side that didn't make the playoffs.
Is that the administration era?
It wasn't quite the administration era, but it
weren't far off.
We weren't far off,
and
the financials at the club were, they were on the.
It's probably the 10th time that Sol Dodsall won it, or something like that. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, and. To be fair to him, I don't think he had a massive playing budget, and actually, it's probably the reason he got the job.
Yeah,
because they're probably. He was
coming up from the academy.
Yeah, he was an unproven coach at that point. He'd come through the academy. So yeah, he coached Bradford to only a 50% win ratio. England boss, 2010 to 2015. I forgot he was England boss for so long, actually.
Yeah.
We all remember the press conference, the buses running outside. What did somebody say to him about that? There were questions he got asked, weren't they? When at press, and it was like, answering that, bus is still running, I'm off. So England's win rate, 59%. I think we'd expect better there. No, do you agree? Yeah.
Well, this is a funny time for me. This is a point in my life when I was out the country so much.
Oh,
I took in very, very little rugby.
Shooting terrorists.
Yeah, so I just, it's a strange time for me. I remember actually watching one of the England games. It was early morning. I woke up. We was in one of the the operating bases.
Basra.
It was on the we weren't far from Basra, on the telly, and I remember watching the game. I was the only person in there, and that was the only bit of rugby league that I got for about 3 years, really.
Right. So his England record was, like I say, 2010 to 2015. 27 England games, won 16, lost 11, 59% win ratio. Okay, not brilliant. He did spend some time at Sydney Roosters. He spent a little bit of time at New Zealand Warriors before he eventually ended up at Catalan in 2017. So, you're a Leeds fan. Would you want Steve McNamara as your head coach next year?
I think so. Especially I think to go from Rohan Smith to Steve McNamara, I don't think that'd warm my cockles, if you like. But to go from Brad Arthur and Ian Blease to Steve McNamara, I think it could be a good move. The reason being, he brings a load of experience, and he's had to juggle stuff that most other teams don't have to juggle, like regular travel out of France. You know what I mean? He's really dialed in. I think it's one of the first things he did, is he really nailed away travelling routine, and put a lot of effort into that. And even things like, they've got their own bus in England, haven't they? You know, and all this kind of stuff. Really sort of nailed that down, and I think that played a big part in Catalan's success. So he's clearly got some like academics about him in that regard. And I think if Ian Blease is taking on a lot of the rugby stuff and the wider team and what have you, and let Steve McNamara just focus on the on-pitch stuff, then I think it's a good move. And I'm taking that because I don't know him personally, but I have heard Sam Burgess talk about him.
Yeah.
No, not Sam Burgess. Sam Tompkins talk about him. And he speaks really highly of him. You know what I mean? And always has. Like, I think his departure, it was obvious that Sam Tompkins was a little bit shocked and upset. I don't know if he'd be upset, but, I don't think he liked the idea of him moving on. I don't think he was ready to boot him out and to get a new coach and all that kind of stuff. And I think that speaks volumes of a very, very experienced player, a player that don't mind saying it as it is. He's always straight talking to why would he bullshit about his current coach. And so on the back of that, I think if Sam Tompkins can believe in him, then me as a Leeds fan can believe in him, and I think he can do good stuff. So yeah, that's my kind of take on it. What about you?
I like your little speech there about him. Yeah, I think judging on what he's done at Catalan, I think he's done a really good job. And I think any Super League team, I think, will be quite lucky to have him. I know some people, the jury's still out a little bit on him. He has gone through the coaching progression, and he's clearly learned from his mistakes, and he's got better as a coach. And like I say, you look at what he's done, what he did when he went into Catalan, and the situations left him in as he's left. Okay, take today's league position out of it, if you would. But I think he's done a great job. I think he'd do a decent job for Leeds. And
what about the youth that he's brought through? Current youth, and past youth. It's been incredible, really.
Yeah, he's bloodied so many young Frenchmen that are not only just playing for Catalan, they're actually playing for other teams in Super League now. And there's a lot of stuff I think he's done in the background at the Dragons, like you were talking about the travel and stuff like that. I don't think it's just the coaching side of it. He's changed a lot of processes from the days of old when we used to watch Catalan, and he's transformed the club. So I think, at Leeds with a bigger organisation.
If he goes to Leeds, because JJB said that it's not.
Yeah, I know. So he's going in. So I think just him being in charge of the coaching, I think probably be a decent move. Is there anybody else for Leeds if Brad Arthur goes? I think the other one you'd throw in the mix would be Paul Rowley.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think they kind of. I'm wondering if he's kicking himself a little bit now. He didn't make the jump when the opportunity was there. When Ian Blease went, he had the opportunity, and he stuck with Salford. And look where we all know what's happening there. So
it won't be at Salford next year, will he? I'd be very surprised if Paul Rowley's at Salford next year.
I don't know if anyone's going to be at Salford next year. Genuinely, which is sacrilege, but 'tis the situation that we have in front of us.
What do you think about Brad Arthur then? This I'm going. I'm not going. I'm not answering any questions. I'm staying here. I'm dedicated to Leeds. I'm not dedicated to Leeds. I want to go home. It's just. I think the fans need to. The fans and the players, I think, probably need to know sooner rather than later what's going on. Don't you? Don't you agree?
Well, let me put it in these. Let me use an analogy. Right. Imagine you had a girlfriend, right? But your girlfriend just kept saying to you, "Well, look, I'm not marrying you because, I might get a better offer later down the line." Right. What are you thinking there? You're thinking, well, is she going to be like faithful to me? Is she truly dedicated to me? Is she putting everything into this relationship? Is she truly committed? You're asking all those questions. It's exactly the same thing. When you come out and you sit on a fence like that, straight away, the fans, the passionate fans, the fans that turn up week in, week out, buy the shirts, support the team, want to see Ronnie on the pitch and all that kind of stuff. They're just thinking, well, you're just stopping by. You're not committed to this team. And all right, we've got some good performances and everything, but why should we invest in you as a coach and therefore the club when you're clearly not pinning your colours to the mast either?
Yeah.
You know, and it's shit. And to be honest, I'd respect if he came out and said, look, to be honest, going back to Australia, he keeps saying about, he's got 2 lads in Australia, and, lots of coaches have moved their kids across, moved their family across. All right, everyone's different, that's fine. But don't hide behind it. If you're waiting for a lucrative offer to come in from the NRL, then say it. But don't just, I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Leeds, they're not putting any pressure on me. I've nearly swore again, and I'm sorry, Karl, but it's just like, get off the fence.
Yeah,
I agree. Or at least be honest.
I completely agree. He needs to just say one way or another, doesn't he? Look, I'm looking for offers in Australia, or I think what would be.
Do you know the other thing?
Do you know what would be worse? Right. I think after all, if we go through all this season and he doesn't get an offer from Australia, and then next year he goes, all right, I'll sign another year for Leeds. Like, how are Leeds planning? Like, because next season's planning is actually starting pretty much now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, at least.
And some sides it'll be even longer. But yeah, the coaches and the backroom staff and people in charge of the organisation will be looking at player budgets and rosters for next season. They'll be looking at it now. So if you haven't got a coach that's committed one way or another, I think it's causing all sorts of problems. And you could find that Leeds have a good season this year because the turmoil they're being left in actually has a negative effect next year.
Well, I think a couple of things are going to happen. I think at some point Leeds' hand is going to have to be forced. For those reasons you've just mentioned there, they're going to have to go, right, at such and such a point, whether you've buggered off or you've decided you're staying, we can't, because you'd put this on your girlfriend. Go back to the girlfriend analogy. At some point you'd go, right, are you in, are you out? Yeah. Because if you're in, you've got to be totally in. And if you're out, go now, right? And you go, I can't live in limbo like this, therefore I'm going to make the decision for you. Fuck off. If you can't be committed to me, bugger off. And Brad Arthur runs the risk of this.
Yeah.
All right, he might have the reward of getting a £5 million deal at bloody Perth Bears. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's off the table now. It sounds like Mal Meninga is the front runner. Burgess and Brad Arthur are out of the question.
Let me put a different spin on this, and this completely changes my mindset when it comes to Brad Arthur, is that if he sat there and said, look, I come in here to Leeds to help them out, and I also had a little bit of a gap in my coaching roster because I'd left Parramatta, right? And I'm truly grateful for the opportunities I've got at Leeds, right? Now, I could take that. If he then said, but if a bigger offer comes, or a more exciting offer comes, or if I'm going to be closer to my kids, I can accept that. If he shows a bit of gratitude, at the minute he's like, well, sod Leeds. I'm an asset, and they're lucky to have me. That's how it's coming across. Yeah. And I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree that's how it's coming across. And you nailed it, mate. I've got nothing. You've absolutely nailed it.
Okay, tackle number 5, and we're going to go to the capital now. Now, John Wilkin, in a recent press release, said that London, having a strong London side is a must, because when he was playing in Toronto, no one really knew what Wigan was about. No one knew where St Helens was. But when you think about the UK, you think about London. Karl, what is your opinion on this? Bearing in mind, we've just had some news break that Gary Everington is going to solve everybody's problems down there in the capital.
What's my opinion on it? Well, first of all, my opinion on London rebuilding and getting investment is a brilliant thing. I think we need a strong London Broncos in Rugby League. Doing it in Super League, that's open for debate, because I'm very much of the... I like the sort of the IMG structure I do. It's like, I want us to have a strong London. Do I want us to have a strong London catapulted straight into Super League because of where they are? Or do I want them to get everything in a row first, get a strong club, a strong foundation behind them before we put London back into Super League? So that's a little bit open for debate. But I love the fact that London Broncos is getting investment. And do you know what I took from the Gary Everington statement? It was the emphasis on putting like community development officers back into the game in London, and kind of the Broncos almost taking charge of the community game all around London and taking it all under its wing. to help grow the Super League side. And that was the biggest takeaway for me. I thought it was great to hear.
And obviously, we don't quite know what the end state for that is. But Gary Etherington has said that it's a 5-year plan.
No,
do you think that's achievable? Do you think it's a stretched goal, or I'm talking 5 years? Is it more of a 10-year plan? Or,
it depends.
Or what?
It was a little bit vague on what its 5-year plan actually means, doesn't it? What point do we want to see London Broncos in 5 years' time? And it was a little bit. The whole thing was a little bit vague, actually. If I'm being honest with you, it's like they had this big press conference. It was at the Australian embassy. We know that there's Australian investment, but actually we don't know too much, do we, behind it? So a lot can be achieved in 5 years, but we don't know. We don't really know what the end result is. Are we looking to have are they just looking to have a London in Super League in 5 years' time? Are we looking to have a strong London in Super League? There's loads of variables, isn't there? We don't have a clue what's going on with the NRL. Are they coming in to make investment in the Super League? We don't know what's going on with the strategic review. So there's just loads of questions up in the air at the minute. But all I can say is it's great that we're getting investment in the London Broncos. It's great that they're putting loads of focus on the community, because actually the community game in London is actually really strong, isn't it? I think it's really strong. And when you've got the numbers in Yorkshire and Lancashire are actually dwindling. I don't think the numbers down south are dwindling. I think they're actually on the rise. There's loads of unanswered questions. One thing that did stand out to me, he talked about there being a rebrand for the London Broncos. I mean, how many rebrands have London Broncos had? There's been absolutely loads, haven't there? I mean, I wonder if they're going to be changing the name from Broncos. Do you think they should stay with it? What's your thoughts on, should they stay with the Broncos name? Is it established enough now, or do you think they should start a clean slate?
No, I think Broncos has always been a good name for them.
Yeah,
and I think if they're going to be aligned with the Brisbane Broncos,
we don't know that.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
I know we don't. But if rumours are to be believed, or if there's any sort of meat on that, then it kind of makes sense. They could truly have like a bit of a partnership, even if it's just a financial partnership or financial support from Australia. But so I think Broncos would be the best bet naming wise. But I think you could also have a lot of fun with different names for London. You know what I mean? I put it into ChatGPT and I was like, what names could it be? Like tongue in cheek, and it came back with like London Gridlock, which I thought was brilliant. And then it was like London Tube Snakes. London
Gridlock, you're not getting through this defence.
Yeah, so they could definitely have some thing. I tell you, if I could fast forward 5 years to be truly excited about where London are, they definitely need to be mid-table team at least in the Super League. Right?
Yeah.
That's tough in 5 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Really tough. However, I think London could have the draw of personalities, and if they've got the right funding, it's achievable. Mm-hmm. And there's some blueprints to follow now. Look at Wakefield, Hull KR, etc. Right? I'd also want 2 London fringe teams to be in League One, and a team in the Championship. A local side in the Championship. I think then I'd be like, do you know what? We have made progress down south, And look around, it could be there. Brentwood, Bedford, is a decent setup. Easy for them to get into League One. And then potentially, we know a few things that's going on at Bedford. Could set themselves up as a Championship side. We're talking 5 years, and I know that would be exciting, and some people look at it and go, crazy, no way. But potential, you know what I mean? Potential. There's other teams around there. If we could,
Scholars used to be a really strong side.
The rebirth of Scholars, or something that picks up where Scholars left off, even if that was a different change. There's always been a few clubs around there that, with a bit of money and a bit of foresight and the right people behind it, could establish themselves. And I think a Super League team in London Broncos, a Championship team in other Scholars-esque, whatever, and a couple of teams in League One, and I think we're doing well in the capital.
Do you think, this is going off in a completely different direction, but there's been talk about like Championship and League One merging. Do you think we should have a north-south split in a Championship?
No, I don't think there's any merit in that. But I tell you what would make it a bit better is if there was subsidy for travel. If clubs could get some kind of subsidised travel, from some central funding or something, then I think that would take a lot of strain. And I wonder, we talk about like Cornwall and their demise recently. It's like, as them travelling up to Whitehaven. Do you know what I mean?
It was just,
isn't it? How did they...
Cornwall to Newcastle.
Yeah. Just and vice versa, Newcastle to Cornwall. It was just, incredible, like thinking about, head down there for the weekend, make a bit of a weekend of it. But the practicalities of it was crackers. So, some kind of subsidised travel, I think, would help more than a north-south split in the league.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next few years. Like I say, there's so much up in the air at the minute. We don't know what Super League's going to look like. We don't know what Championship's going to look like. Is that going to merge with League One? We just don't know, do we? But
we're a bit like Brad Arthur, aren't we? We just can't make a decision.
Well, it's not that we can't make a decision. It's because there ain't a decision to really make. We both want London Broncos to do well. We think the investment into the club is brilliant, and I suppose let's wait and see what happens in the next stage. I suppose at the end of the season, hopefully we'll have some answers.
Well, Gary Everington could well be the man to do it. He's got the pedigree. What he did at Sheffield and then Leeds. Exactly. I think he bought Leeds for £1.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
so it's just,
and he did a great job at Sheffield as well. So yeah, he's definitely the right man to. I think this is his last
project,
last gift for rugby league. This, isn't it? I think you need someone who's straight talking and a bit hard faced like Gary Everington to take it forward. And they've already got the best coach, in my opinion, in the job in Mike Eccles. So there's a lot of stuff already in place. They've got a great coach. They've got a good base now at AFC Wimbledon. The junior rugby is actually doing very well. There's a lot of junior clubs like Brixton Bulls and Elmbridge Eagles doing great stuff in London. So there's a lot of things already in place. I think the final thing was just that investment. So we could see something special from London in the next few years.
Right, let's move on to the Williams Weekly then. So following on from our discussion with Liam Duffy and the Inside Shoulder podcast, Karl raised a bit of an interesting point, and that's that Rohan Smith believes that the focus of any rugby player's development should be in the gym, right? And the things like skill and inbuilt skill, skill that you're born with, your innate skill, let's say skill again. It's like second fiddle almost. And my retort to that was, is this why Rohan Smith seemed to take great players with phenomenal skill and turn them into what looked like mediocre robots? And that seems harsh, but we saw numerous examples of it.
He didn't say that the main focus was on the gym. Playing ability came second, but he did put a lot of emphasis on building players up in the gym. That were kind of my taking away from it when I listened to his interview. Yeah, so I thought it raised an interesting question there. Yeah,
so we're going to dive back into the conversation with Liam Duffy where we dig around this a little bit more. But my take on this, Liam, is it's very much like chicken and egg, isn't it? It's like, you've got to have the skill to get yourself on the pitch, but then you've got to have the fitness levels and the conditioning to remain on the pitch and to be able to keep up with the game. And it's like, which one comes first? And I suppose what Rohan Smith perhaps was talking about is the fact that, like, you work on the controllables, you focus on the controllables, and that is something you can control. The application of your efforts in the gym, your efforts in conditioning, the rest. I know the guy that he did a lot of BJJ with up in Leeds. So, I know they spent a lot of time in the, whatever it's called, the octagon, or I don't know what it's called. But
the dojo.
The dojo. Room. Yeah, I know they did. The panic room. And, so I know he puts a lot of focus on that. And I hadn't really got an answer, but I'll tell you my thoughts, Liam, and just pick what you will out of this. Like, there was times when Leeds were missing the individual skill. In fact, we often spoke about Rohan Smith having this art of bringing in a player that excelled personally. Some of the best examples, Andy Ackers and Brodie Croft from Salford. They got to Leeds and it was like their individual skill was quashed. They just became like average players. And I'm a Leeds fan, so it was something I was really aware of, and I wonder if that focus on the gym nullified the skill that players had. But I weren't there having a conversation with Rohan. So, what would you say to that?
Yeah, look, I kind of have had a window through the podcast and just conversations with Rohan, who's been very generous with his time to me personally. Look, I don't think what he's saying is he's a very, very intelligent coach. Like, he sees the game probably in a deeper way than I don't want to say a lot of other coaches at the elite level, because obviously if you're coaching at that level, you see the game in a way that us civilians don't. But he does see the game. He appreciates the game. He looks at the intricate things. He puts a very high value on the kind of skills that maybe like your average fan doesn't see or notice. So I don't think it's like one at the expense of the other. I think maybe, like I said, I don't know the situation. Maybe just the way, like the overall system, some players excel in one system and don't excel in another system. I know like Salford famously play with a very like liberal style, let's call it. They like to throw the ball around from their own end. They play with a lot of freedom. So maybe that's where you see individuals like Brodie Croft, like just kind of have more like highlight reel moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't like you. I wasn't there peeking behind under the bonnet in Leeds. So I don't know. But I don't think it should be taken as, the gym over the field time. I think it's more just like, if you don't, let's be honest, if you're not lifting heavy weights, if you're not strong, if you don't have a strength base, you can't play professional rugby league at this point. And like, as I kind of probed with Rohan, like some people might see that as a regrettable element, like it should be about the skill, but at the same time we play a very physical, aggressive game, and if you don't have a strength base, like you're not going to compete. And some players have a natural strength base where they don't need to be like under the bar all the time. But I think most people, you do need to be a conditioned and strong machine, and a powerful machine as well. But there's there's other guests have had other really interesting perspectives. Like I had Adam Innes on, who's the long time head of physical prep at Toulouse, and now the French Rugby League team as well. He's got interesting thoughts on this, really fascinating thoughts on like we went into the level of preparation that Toulouse were afforded when they were promoted to Super League, which is like, to me, is just insane. Like they basically had 4 weeks to construct a Super League squad. And as I discussed with Adam, when Redcliffe Dolphins or the Dolphins were coming into the NRL, they were like a year out, and people were panicking about the fact that they hadn't made many big recruitment names. Yeah. Whereas a Super League team getting promoted is expected to build a Super League level squad in 4 weeks, 2 months. Like these were the chips that were down for Toulouse. So and he talked a lot about what that meant in terms of physical preparation to get to the Super League level from Championship. So I had some really interesting coaches, and just people who think deeply about the game, and particularly like the physical contact elements, which, as you alluded to earlier, I'm a bit biased on, because those are the bits that I enjoy.
But I mean, as well as being able to control the preparation, I suppose it's also very measurable. All of it is, you can actually substantiate how much weight you've got on a bar, or the speed over 40 metres or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Whereas individual skill, how do you you can do the crossbar challenge, like, you know what I mean? It's hard to measure that, isn't it? So, who knows? Karl, you had a question.
Yeah, I just got a quick question, like for you and your head coaching role. I suppose I'm interested to know what sort of split you have with the training with your guys. How much time are you expecting them to do in the gym? How much skill training do you have? How many sessions do you have? Defence training? Are the guys? I'm assuming that it's like semi-pro, isn't it? The elite one.
Yeah, semi-pro. There's there are some players.
If you can, how many sort of sessions do you have with them a week? Are they expected to do their own gym work, or is that part of your coaching sessions? Yeah, just be nice to have a little bit of a breakdown of it.
Yeah, look, my personal opinion is it's intensely demanding, and I want to try and find ways to not make it less demanding, because the training has to be demanding, but to recalibrate the balance with their lives a little bit, but without taking away from their preparation, which is going to be extremely hard, at the same time as asking them to be a bit more professional in their preparation. But I'm very conscious of the fact that this is not their full-time job. A lot of these guys are getting up very early in the morning, coming straight from work to training. They're not getting home until late. Maybe their kids, if they've got young kids, have already gone to bed, or maybe they'll get 15, 20 minutes with their kids. That also puts strain on relationships, on families. it puts strain on jobs when you're having to leave at like 5 on the dot to get to training on time, for example. And they're getting home late, making dinner, seeing the kids, going to bed, getting up early again, going through it all again. So like sleep is affected. So it's like we have them in 3 times in the week. We're very fortunate to have a good gym at the stadium. So the first groups come in for the gym pretty much straight after work. Then maybe we'll have like a little team meeting, look at some video, go through, maybe the opposition for that week, maybe look at what I'm planning to do is look at some training footage from the previous week, potentially, maybe that'll be 15, 20 minutes and then go out onto the field or, into the wrestle room or whatever it is that week. And this is something Rohan Smith alluded to when I spoke to him, like he's coaching at North Devils in the Queensland Cup. But the actual training demands are not that different to a full-time professional. Like in a Super League environment, they're not on the field every day. There's other things that go into their preparation. You can't have players on the field every day. You'll melt them.
Yeah.
So it is very, very demanding. And like I said, I'm currently trying to figure out the best way to do this while being very conscious of what we're asking them to do, making sure that, when you're asking such big time demands, other things start to suffer, like nutrition. And if your nutrition suffers, your performance is going to suffer. If your sleep suffers, your performance is going to suffer. So I'm very, very conscious of all that and how we need to balance that. But look, it is tough. It is tough on the guys first of all, it's rugby league, and then second of all, it's French Rugby League. And as we know, like there's not enormous amounts of money floating around. So they are giving a lot of time for, it's great. They're getting paid to do something that they love. So on the one hand, it's great, but then on the other hand, like it's the real world, and people need to earn a living that pays the bills, pays the rent, feeds their family. It's going to be a delicate balancing act. But I want to get the balance a bit better than last season. I think that a lot of the time that we were tired for no reason, if that makes sense. Like we were asking a lot of them in terms of time on the field and cognitive strain as well, just in terms of like new information and stuff like that, without getting the same level of progression that they were putting into it. So I just want to make sure if we're asking lots of time for them, like every second, every minute is devoted to them getting better as individual rugby league players and also as a team. But yeah, like just to come back to what I said at the beginning, it's tough. It's tough what they're asked to do. Yeah,
it's tough. It's a privilege to be in a position they're in, but no doubt it is tough. Liam, thank you very much for taking time out. Obviously, we'll share this and encourage all our viewers and listeners to check out the Inside Shoulder podcast. When's the next episode out?
I'm useless at editing, not as professional as you guys, but I'm going to try and get it out tomorrow. So that'll be, what day is that? Tuesday, the 27th of May. That's with a guy who's worked like high-level American football and rugby in the US, so it's got really interesting perspective on all of this. So I really appreciate the little plug and the shout-out. It is really appreciated, and always enjoy chatting to you guys as well.
Yeah, no, Liam, we love chatting to you, mate, and learning all about French Rugby League and going on a bit of a journey with you. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with you towards the start of next season, I think. And yeah, hopefully we get out there next year and take in some French Rugby League.
The door's open.
Cheers, mate.
La porte est ouverte.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. See you later.
Right, Liam Duffy there, and the host of the Inside Shoulder podcast. So make sure you check that out. Really talking about the intricacies of that side of the game that not a lot of people that have not played at that level will kind of understand. Yeah, Karl, anything just to finish up with this Rohan Smith kind of topic? Your own personal views?
I've seen two different sides of Rohan Smith during his coaching time in the UK. So he was the Bradford coach before he went to Leeds on it, and I thought he was really good at Bradford. I thought he was really methodical, but he also took a few more risks. I remember watching Bradford in the summer bash at Blackpool, and he made like this wild card decision. He played someone completely different at standoff. I don't know if it were injury forced, and I was like,
really?
This ain't going to work. Like it was like a centre or like Adrian Purtell or somebody he lined up in the halfbacks against Halifax. I was like, that ain't going to work. And then I watched it and I was like, I didn't expect to see that happen, and it did. And then his time in Leeds, he seemed to be just really cautious. And
I think
it was a side that didn't take many risks. It was too focused on the gym. It's hard to say, isn't it? But
it is. I mean, I'd love to get other people's views on this and what they think. Maybe there was talk at the time that perhaps it was just too big a job for him at that stage, and maybe he just needed a bottom to middle league, a team to coach first of all before he took on the Leeds job. I'm not saying it was the biggest job in rugby league, but it's a big club.
Well, yeah, but he's from good stock, isn't he?
Yeah,
Rohan Smith. I mean, son of Brian, Tony Smith. I imagine he's been around these high. Well, he has been around these high quality coaching environments all his life, hasn't he? So it never didn't surprise me that he took the Leeds job. And like I say, when he was at Bradford, I actually thought it was really good. I thought it was something that Bradford had been looking for a number of years. So I was a little bit gutted when he left Bradford, actually, but yeah, didn't quite get it together at Leeds.
Right, Karl, another great episode. Thank you very much for turning up in the right top and for shining a light on my overshirt. Anything else to add? Anything coming up?
No, just be interested, I think, for people to comment what Craig's fine should be for not turning up in his official Rugby League Outsiders kit. Right. Put it in the comments.
And on the flip side, what should Karl's fine be for nicking his daughter's hat again? Right, until next week, take care.